Here's the brain. Much the largest part of the brain is the cerebrum. The cerebrum is partly divided in the midline into two cerebral hemispheres. Below the cerebrum, and separate from it, is the smaller cerebellum. The cerebrum and the cerebellum both grow out of the brainstem. The brainstem becomes continuous below with the spinal cord. Ridges separate the anterior cranial fossa from the middle cranial fossa. This part of the cerebrum, the frontal lobe, occupies the anterior cranial fossa. This part, the temporal lobe, occupies the middle cranial fossa. The petrous temporal bones separate the middle cranial fossa from the posterior cranial fossa. The posterior cranial fossa contains the cerebellum and the brainstem. Now let's see how the cranial cavity looks in the living body. The cranial cavity is lined throughout by this layer of tough, shiny fibrous tissue, the dura. Below, here's the tentorium. Its full name is tentorium cerebelli. It separates the posterior cranial fossa from the rest of the cranial cavity and separates two major parts of the brain, the cerebrum above from the cerebellum below. This opening in the tentorium is called the tentorial incisure. In the midline, the tentorium is attached to the other major partition, the falx, which we'll add to the picture. This is the falx. Its full name is falx cerebri. The falx forms a midline partition between the two cerebral hemispheres. Here's its attachment. The falx splits into two layers, leaving a triangular space for the superior sagittal sinus, an important part of the brain's venous